Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Lamb. I'm sitting in for David Zhang. Here are some of today's top stories. Trump's New York trial continues. Prosecutors say it's entirely possible they will rest their case by the end of next week. Adam Montgomery, now sentenced to 56 years in prison. His case made headlines when he was convicted of killing his 5-year-old daughter. Homeless campers could face fines in Portland, Oregon, following a newly passed rule targeting encampments on public property. First up, Trump's New York trial continues. Before entering the courtroom today, he criticized again the gag order Judge Juan Merchan imposed to restrict his public comments about witnesses and jurors in the case.
They think they're going to get away with this. If this country allows them to get away with this gag order, and the way the case is being handled, like what they're doing yesterday was incredible. It was incredible. What they did, this trial was so horrible. It's no longer justice, and it's a tremendous abuse of the New York judicial system in particular. The New York judicial system has been absolutely abused and abused terribly. And it's the whole world is watching. It's very bad. So I'll now go and sit in that freezing cold courtroom for 8 or 9 hours and think about being on the campaign. But I'll be on the campaign on Saturday at 5 o'clock in Wildwood, New Jersey. Thank you very much.
Today's proceedings began with more cross-examination of Madeleine Westerhout. She's the former White House aide who testified on Thursday about checks Trump signed in the Oval Office and a meeting he scheduled with Cohen early in his 2017-2021 presidency. Trump's former attorney Michael Cohen is expected to begin his testimony on Monday. Prosecutors said today it's entirely possible they will rest their case by the end of next week. Prosecutors say Trump falsely labeled his reimbursement payments to Cohen in 2017, categorized as legal retainer fees in his New York-based real estate company's books to obscure the payment to Daniels, which they say violated campaign finance law. Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records and called the case a politically motivated effort to interfere with his campaign to win back the White House. Anti-Israel demonstrators were back in action overnight at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. This after being cleared out with dozens of arrests on Wednesday. Police were lined up in different spots to protect George Washington University President Ellen Granberg. Fox News reported that the protesters wanted to get to her residence. Demonstrators set up tents outside the administrative building. This comes after police cleared an encampment there the previous day, leading to over 30 arrests. Following repeated warnings, police officers moved in, clearing out the protesters. Over to California, some professors at UCLA are demanding the administration stop its plan to punish students recently arrested at anti-Israel protests. The faculty held a rally Thursday to announce their demands, including the resignation of UCLA Chancellor Gene Block.
That all legal charges be dropped for all students, staff, and faculty who were involved in the encampment and peaceful protest.
The university administration has gotten it wrong every time and shamefully put our students' lives in danger.
More than 800 UCLA faculty and staff have signed a letter decrying the chancellor's actions. At UC Irvine, several students protesters started to receive suspension notices this week for what the university called multiple conduct violations. In Boston, police detained several people Thursday at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology after anti-Israel demonstrators blocked a parking garage. An unusually strong solar storm headed toward Earth could produce northern lights in the U.S. this weekend. The natural phenomenon could potentially disrupt communications as well. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has issued a rare geomagnetic storm watch, the first in nearly 20 years. NOAA said the sun produced strong solar flares beginning Wednesday. They're capable of disrupting satellites in orbit and power grids here on Earth. Each eruption contained billions of tons of solar plasma. According to NOAA, the latest storm might produce northern lights as far south as Alabama. In the death of his 5-year-old daughter, a New Hampshire man gets a minimum of 56 years in prison. He was found guilty of beating her to death, then hiding her body in various places. Her body is still missing. NTD's Jason Blair has the latest.
Harmony was an innocent 5-year-old girl. You treated her in the worst of possible ways.
Adam Montgomery was convicted in February of killing his 5-year-old daughter, Harmony, who was reported missing in November 2021. On Thursday, he was sentenced.
You are sentenced to the New Hampshire State Prison for not more than life nor less than 45 years. That sentence is stand committed.
He received 45 years for second-degree murder and an additional 11 years for other charges, including assault, witness tampering, and falsifying evidence. The court concluded that Montgomery assaulted Harmony, resulting in her death in December of 2019. Montgomery's estranged wife testified that Harmony's body was hidden for 3 months by Montgomery in various places, including a car trunk and a freezer, before he disposed of it. Her remains have still yet to be found. The Massachusetts Office of the Child Advocate released a 101-page report detailing Harmony's time with the foster care system. Harmony moved in between her mother's care and foster care a couple of times. She eventually ended up in her father's custody in New Hampshire in 2019, a few years after he was released from prison. The office director of the Massachusetts Office of the Child Advocate said in a 2022 press conference, quote, "By not putting her and her needs first, our system ultimately failed her. We owe it to her to make the changes necessary to allow our system to do better in the future." Montgomery maintained his innocence throughout the trial. Jason Blair, NTD News. A woman is convicted for dozens of retail theft incidents following repeated shoplifting at the self-checkout counter at a San Francisco store. The stolen merchandise adds up to around $60,000.
43-year-old Aziza Graves was convicted for repeatedly stealing from a Target store in Stonestown Galleria in San Francisco. According to San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins' office, Graves allegedly stole merchandise over the course of a year between October 2020 and November 2021. The total value is about $60,000. She would go to the self-checkout counter, scan each item, insert a nominal amount like a single coin or bill, and leave the store. In a statement, Jenkins said, "These crimes demand accountability, and we need to send the message to others who engage in open and brash thefts that with the support of our local law enforcement partners, our office will continue to pursue and prosecute those involved." Graves is convicted of 1 felony count of grand theft in violation, 52 misdemeanor counts of petty theft for the Target store, and 1 count of misdemeanor petty theft for an Abercrombie & Fitch store, also in San Francisco. Graves is currently out of custody. She faces more than 3 years in state prison for her crimes. Sentencing is scheduled for May 24th.
A major city in Oregon is tackling their homeless problem with some new rules. If the homeless refuse shelter, they will be fined or jailed.
Homeless people who camp on public property in Portland, Oregon, and reject offers of shelter could be fined up to $100 or sentenced up to 7 days in jail. That's after the city council unanimously approved the new rules on Wednesday. According to Mayor Ted Wheeler's office, the ordinance takes effect immediately, and enforcement is set to begin in the coming weeks.
Addressing the issue of unsheltered homelessness in the city is obviously a complex as well as an urgent matter. And I believe that this ordinance represents a significant step forward in our ongoing efforts to manage public spaces effectively.
When shelter is not available, the same penalties apply for blocking sidewalks, using gas heaters or starting fires, or having belongings more than 2 feet outside of tents. Those who accept offers of shelter won't be cited. For those who are cited, the courts will determine whether to waive fines. The ordinance says it encourages diverting people to assessment, emergency shelter, or housing instead of jail.
We all want structures and rules to be in place that will allow all of us to live safely in our community, no matter where you live or sleep. And I know that Portlanders are exhausted and discouraged by the trash and graffiti, excessive camping, public use of illegal substances, and all sorts of biohazards on our street, and they want to see changes.
The mayor's office said the new rules seek to comply with a state law that requires cities to have objectively reasonable restrictions on when, where, and how people camp in public. A previous stricter version of the ordinance that banned camping during daylight hours has been put on hold by a judge. It was challenged after homeless advocates filed a lawsuit. The measure comes as Portland and other cities across the U.S. West struggle to address a growing number of homeless encampments. Many officials say they need to be able to manage encampments to keep streets safe and sanitary, while advocacy groups say people shouldn't be criminally punished for lacking housing. The U.S. Supreme Court is weighing whether cities can punish people for sleeping outside when shelter space is lacking. It's the most significant case before the High Court in decades on the issue and comes amid record homelessness nationwide.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come right back. Dissidents of the Chinese Communist Party face transcontinental suppression in many forms, including espionage. A new movie sheds light on the experiences of these people. A Northern California airport officially changes their name, but across the SF Bay, another city is suing them for the renaming. A very special holiday is coming up this weekend. We have some of the top gifts for mom this year. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Lam. The Chinese Communist Party conducts transcontinental suppression in many forms, including espionage. They also take part in threats, intimidation, and property damage, and a new movie just released tells the story. NTD's Bill Thomas brings us more.
Today we're at Liberty Sculpture Park in the Mojave Desert community of Yermo here in California. At the park you'll find many fascinating sculptures, all created by Chinese dissidents who are in opposition to the Chinese Communist Party. Unfortunately, the sculpture just behind me, it's been destroyed. Wei Ming Chen, a sculptor and main character featured in the film Dissidents, told me his art piece called CCP Virus has been ravaged not once, but twice.
First, they used the steel chain or tear down the sculpture. After a week, they use fire, fire stick, then burn the sculpture.
Mr. Chen also told us that he had been tracked down by government spies from China before they destroyed his artwork. He says they were able to locate him by using spy cameras and GPS devices.
Because they in my car, they make GPS in my car. They know where is my car.
When Mr. Chen and the organization he's affiliated with, the Democratic Party of China, protested against the Chinese government over a variety of issues, the group claimed the CCP retaliated against them and even obstructed their activities. Drintao Wang, the national chairman of that group, had more to say about this when I caught up with him after the screening of the new film.
It's shocking me that even in the land of the brave, we're still facing a lot of danger and a lot of challenge.
Mr. Wang, who's also featured in the movie, says that some challenges come from China and some challenges even come from right here in the U.S.
Those American elites, manipulated by the Chinese government. The Chinese government use some kind of economic benefit to monopolize them to press us if we struggle for freedom in China, in this country.
According to Yingchuan Liu, a law student and co-founder of the LA Committee of the Democratic Party of China, the actions of the Chinese government affect not only dissidents, but other countries as well.
The CCP's transnational repression is a threat to the USA's democracy and also an invasion of the democratic nations.
She says social awareness is a significant first step aimed at stopping the CCP's influence both domestically and worldwide.
I want more and more people to recognize the various forms of the transnational repression by CCP and also know how to resist it here, like legally.
Guo Bin said he was held against his will in China, even though he did everything legally. Guo also claimed he was brutally beaten by a bribed policeman in China in July 2019. He says the movie resonates with him on a very deep level.
I was detained in China. I was prosecuted in China. I'm totally legal. That's why I was enlightened. That's why I come to the USA. And watching this film, it reminds me of my personal story and millions of other Chinese stories who've been persecuted, harmed, harassed, even in the United States.
He says even though he's here in the States, he still has substantial concerns about his future.
My passport lost, so I'm applying for passport right now. So I'm really scared that they don't issue me the passport. So I have no identification if they don't issue me the passport. If we go back to China, I don't know what's going to happen.
While anti-China sentiment continues to grow in the U.S., caused by the CCP's corrupt actions, Guo wants to be sure that everyone knows the true story about China, the people, the culture, and more.
If you want to know more about China, you should know one very basic knowledge that CCP is not China. China is good, Chinese people are good, but CCP is bad. Chinese Communist Party does not represent Chinese people. Chinese Communist Party does not represent China. So we should fight against CCP rather than China. Yeah.
In addition to Guo Bin, Drin Tao Wang, and Wei Ming Chen, there are countless other dissidents whose stories we're not familiar with yet. To better understand the plight of Chinese exiles in America and the Chinese government's transnational suppression, the Dissidents movie will help by informing, educating, and enlightening you. Bill Thomas and Jimmy Ma, NTD News, California.
A major airport in Northern California is officially renaming itself, despite critics saying it will confuse travelers and cause losses. Now it will face a lawsuit.
Formerly Metropolitan Oakland International Airport, it is now officially renamed as San Francisco Bay Oakland International Airport. The Oakland Board of Port Commissioners unanimously voted to approve the change on Thursday. The airport's three-letter code, OAK, and logo will remain the same. In a statement, the Port Commission president said, "Since our initial vote, the port has met with dozens of community leaders and stakeholders and heard their concerns. We are moving forward with the commitment to honoring our past while building a stronger, more inclusive future." According to Port Commissioners, the renaming is important because it will strengthen and grow the airport. But across the bay, San Francisco International Airport previously raised concerns about confusing travelers since their names would be similar. San Francisco City Attorney David Chu also filed a lawsuit against Oakland officials on April 18th to prevent infringement of SFO's trademark. On May 7th, before the final vote, the city proposed that Oakland officials talk with San Francisco again to come up with other naming ideas to avoid the lawsuit from moving forward. However, if the port chooses to rename, Chu's office will continue with the litigation and seek a preliminary injunction.
As Mother's Day approaches, many people are on the hunt for the perfect gifts to show their appreciation. NTD's Christina Corona shares this year's popular picks.
Mother's Day is just around the corner, so if you haven't found the perfect gift for mom yet, don't worry. Whether it's jewelry, great online finds, or the classic choice of flowers, we've got you covered with some of the top gift ideas.
According to a study by USA Today, some of the most popular gifts on Mother's Day are flowers, greeting cards, and special outings such as dinner or brunch. Amazon Prime members will be able to get Mother's Day gifts just in time with expedited shipping. From a chocolate gift basket to a candle warmer lamp and even a cookware set, Amazon has over 50 unique gifts to choose from. We spoke to several mothers who share what they like to receive most on Mother's Day.
For myself, I like to receive anything self-care, makeup, my daily facial routine, hair stuff, anything for me.
The ones they made themselves. Those are the most precious ones that I keep always, and I think those are the memorable ones.
And gifts they like to give their moms.
As a child, we would always handwrite or give her something with art, which I feel that she loves the most. She still hangs them up around the house, but this time around, my sister and I, we surprised her with gigantic gifts.
And I like to give my mom self-care things. I to like this year. She asked for like a special shampoo that she saw online and stuff, so I surprised her with that this year.
Always flowers. That's always a nice touch. But I think time is is quiet kids. So I always want to make some time for my mom on Mother's Day as well.
One Northern California flower shop owner tells us about a unique gift idea concept that combines the love for plants and coffee.
We have different bouquet varieties available, flowers in a vase. You can get a cup of flowers and coffee together in a little carrier to surprise mom with.
And the Mother's Day bouquet she sells.
So I like to stick with more kind of peachy pink blush tones. I don't do like the very traditional dark red. I will for Valentine's Day, but usually we kind of go with like more pastel spring colors.
If all else fails, a handwritten card or letter and sharing stories with mom are always a treat. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Christina Corona, NTD News, Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer coming up next. The U.S. deporting a Chinese billionaire over election interference. What we know about who he donated to and how. More details coming tonight on China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And that's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Lamb. I'm sitting in for David Zhang. Have a wonderful weekend, and to all the moms, Happy Mother's Day.